Once, Batanes was known for its quiet beauty, rolling hills, stone houses, and the calm resilience of its people. A place where storms, not soldiers, were the only threat. Today, those same windswept islands stand at the edge of a coming storm of another kind, a geopolitical one. What was once a forgotten frontier has become a front line. A place once prized for peace now sits at the crossroads of power. Ironically, its isolation, once its protection, has become its peril. Here, in the northernmost tip of the Philippines, geography has turned destiny. Batanes is no longer just watching history unfold, it's standing right in the path of it. In August 2025, the Mahatao Forward Operating Base came online, the largest military installation ever built by the Philippines in the north. It's not just about defending territory or watching the seas, it's about staking a claim. Manila's flag firmly planted in the Luzon Strait. This move comes as tensions around Taiwan heat up. China's growing naval power has made one thing clear: the Philippines can no longer sit on the sidelines. Mahhatau is Manila's answer, a bold statement that the country will not be a bystander in its own backyard. It's part of a broader strategy linking the Philippines with the US, Australia, and Japan, locking Batanes into the pulse of the Indo-Pacific alliance system. At the heart of this shift lies the Luzon Strait, one of the most vital waterways in the world. It's the narrow passage connecting the South China Sea to the Pacific, and whoever controls it controls the gateway between East and West. Here, Batanes becomes more than islands on a map. It becomes a tripwire, the place where any attack could ignite a regional war, a symbol of opportunity and risk. For every layer of deterrence and alliance, there's the shadow of Chinese pressure and the threat of miscalculation. Still, the message is unmistakable. Mahhatau is more than a base. It's Manila declaring, "We will stand our ground." For centuries, the Batanes Islands were little more than a postcard image, remote, windswept, and known for the resilience of the Ivatan people, rather than military power. But geography always told a different story. These islands are a natural maritime gateway, a choke point that's seen sailors, traders, and submarines pass through for generations. During the Cold War, Batanes barely registered on Manila's radar. Defense focused south, while US bases at Subic Bay and Clark Airfield anchored deterrence. The north was left quiet and undefended until China's naval modernization changed everything. By the late 2010s, Manila woke up. Small Philippine Navy and Marine units began rotating through Batanes. In 2018, the first joint Philippine-US recon mission landed on Mavulas Island, the country's northernmost tip. It was symbolic, but powerful. For the first time, Batanes wasn't just a remote community. It was a strategic outpost. As insurgencies in Mindanao subsided, troops redeployed north. They weren't fighting rebels anymore. They were training for maritime surveillance, tracking foreign ships through the Luzon Strait, preparing for scenarios once thought unthinkable. By the mid-2020s, analysts saw Batanes as part of the first island chain, the defensive arc stretching from Japan to the Philippines. And when US-China competition reached fever pitch, Batanes was no longer a forgotten frontier. It was a square on the grand chessboard of the Pacific. The opening of the Mahatao Forward Operating Base marked a turning point. Built on Batan Island, it's the Philippines' most ambitious military project in decades. Both a fortress and a statement. Just 120 miles south of Taiwan, Mahhatau sits directly across the Bashi Channel, one of the planet's most strategic sea lanes. It's the same corridor Chinese submarines use to reach the Pacific, and the same route US reinforcements would take in a Taiwan crisis. Mahhatau is built for 3 missions. 1. Defense, with hardened shelters, radar stations, and supply depots ready to host rotating troops. 2. Maritime awareness, closing the surveillance gap against Chinese Coast Guard and militia ships. 3. Disaster response, pre-positioned food, medicine, and relief stockpiles for typhoon and earthquake emergencies. It's not just a war base, it's a dual-use hub, equally capable of launching rescues or deterrence. a message wrapped in steel and symbolism. We defend, but we also help. Now, with Mahhatau as its logistical anchor, Mavulis finally has depth and endurance. Together, the two form a layered shield, a northern network that strengthens both defense and alliance credibility. But the backdrop is tense. The Taiwan flashpoint has made the Luzon Strait one of Asia's busiest and most militarized waterways. Chinese Coast Guard cutters, militia fleets, submarines, and plan warships crisscross the channel daily. Any spark here could spread fast. In April 2025, AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Brawner Jr. issued a stark directive. Philippine troops in the north must prepare not just for harassment, but for full-scale invasion scenarios. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. echoed the warning. If war breaks out over Taiwan, geography ensures we can't stay out of it. He reminded Filipinos, Kaohsiung is just a 40-minute flight from northern Luzon. Neutrality is not an option. For Manila, the Taiwan issue is no longer theoretical. Over 200,000 Filipinos live and work in Taiwan, and in any conflict, bases like Mahhatau could become lifelines for evacuation and relief. The Luzon Strait, in other words, is not only a front line, it's a lifeline. Beijing sees it differently. China's officials have blasted Manila's moves, calling them provocations and evidence of US manipulation. But every new radar mast and pier at Mahhatau tells a different story. The Philippines is no longer a pawn, it's playing its own hand. The Mahatao base is more than a construction project. It's part of a growing alliance architecture, the web linking Washington, Canberra, Tokyo, and Manila. The annual Balikatan drills now stretch all the way to Batanes, rehearsing for gray zone standoffs and choke point control. What was once the quiet edge of the map has become the center of gravity in the Indo-Pacific contest. The Philippines has drawn a new line across Asia's defense map, and it runs straight through the windswept cliffs of Batanes. The message to the world is clear. This is our watchtower, our warning line, our stake in the Indo-Pacific's uncertain future. The symbolism couldn't be clearer. Balikatan, Tagalog for shoulder to shoulder, now places Filipino and American troops literally shoulder to shoulder on the edge of what could become the next great conflict zone. The message is unmistakable. The Philippines is no longer watching from the sidelines. For the first time, US Marines have rolled some of their most advanced weapon systems into Batanes. From the HIMARS rocket launchers to the Navy Marine Expeditioner's Ship Interdiction System, Nemesis, and mid-range capability, MRC launchers, all capable of reaching targets across the Taiwan Strait. These deployments aren't permanent, not yet, but the intent is crystal clear. Washington is tightening its defensive web across the first island chain, and the Philippines has become a critical link. In military terms, Batanes and the Luzon Strait are evolving into a natural kill box, a narrow, monitored corridor where Allied forces can track, target, and, if necessary, neutralize Chinese naval movements before they reach the Pacific. But this isn't just about hardware. It's about a transformation in mindset. US and Philippine Marines are now training side by side in littoral warfare, small unit mobility, quick dispersal across islands, using coastal terrain for concealment and ambush. The Philippine soldiers, once trained to fight jungle insurgencies, are now learning how to hunt warships. The target, the People's Liberation Army Navy. The lesson? Speed, stealth, and precision win island wars. Australia has joined the scene too, no longer a supporting player, but a full-fledged partner. In mid-2025, Exercise Aelon brought together 3,600 Australian and Philippine troops in large-scale amphibious operations. Observers from Japan, the US, and other allies watched closely. Australia's participation wasn't symbolic, it was strategic. Canberra knows that freedom of navigation in these waters is inseparable from its own national security. Together, these drills and deployments form a unified message. China's naval expansion will not go unchallenged. The goal is straightforward: to deny Beijing unimpeded access through the Luzon Strait. If China ever launches an operation against Taiwan, its warships must either thread the narrow Mahatao Strait near Japan or cut through the Luzon Strait north of the Philippines. By fortifying the latter with Philippine bases, US missile systems, and allied patrols, Washington and its partners are effectively sealing one of China's few exits to the Pacific. For Beijing, that's a strategic nightmare. For Manila, it's a mix of reassurance and risk, proof of allied solidarity, but also confirmation that the Philippines now sits squarely on the front line of great power rivalry. The Luzon Strait is no ordinary body of water. Stretching between northern Philippines and southern Taiwan, it's one of the few deep-water corridors linking the South China Sea with the Pacific Ocean. Unlike Japan's narrow, heavily patrolled Mahatao Strait, the Luzon Strait is wide and deep, perfect for Chinese submarines, destroyers, and even aircraft carriers seeking to break out into the open ocean. Whoever dominates this corridor controls one of Beijing's most vital naval lifelines. For the US and its allies, that same geography offers an opportunity, a natural bottleneck. By embedding Philippine territory into a wider network of missile bases, radar sites, and patrol zones, Washington gains the ability to track and, if necessary, choke Chinese naval traffic. The deep waters that once gave China cover now make its movements predictable. There are only a handful of viable submarine routes, all easily mapped, all within reach of Allied sensors and missile systems. In essence, the Luzon Strait has been turned from a vulnerability into a defensive shield. At the center of that shield lies Batanes, just 120 miles from Taiwan. Whoever controls these islands controls the crossroads of Asia's most contested sea lanes. Any strike, blockade, or even minor confrontation here wouldn't stay local for long. It would trigger the 1951 US-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty, compelling Washington to defend Manila. That's why strategists call Batanes a tripwire, a forward line so exposed that any attack on it would instantly pull in the world's biggest military powers. For Manila, reinforcing Batanes isn't just about defending turf, it's about deterrence, sending a message to Beijing that any move against the islands would escalate beyond China's control. For Washington, it's a question of credibility. Would America really stand by its allies if push came to shove? Batanes is where that promise could be tested. Once windswept and forgotten, Batanes has become a fulcrum of Indo-Pacific strategy, the point where great powers collide. The Mahatao Forward Operating Base gives the Philippines a permanent foothold in its most vulnerable frontier. It boosts Manila's ability to respond not just to military threats, but to the region's frequent typhoons and natural disasters. And it ties the Philippines more tightly to its allies through shared training, logistics, and technology. But with power comes peril. Beijing won't accept this shift quietly. China could retaliate with trade restrictions, diplomatic pressure, or an uptick in harassment of Filipino fishermen and Coast Guard vessels in disputed waters. At home, Manila faces the delicate balancing act of defending sovereignty without being dragged into a superpower showdown it can't control. And for the wider region, the Luzon Strait is fast becoming a militarized frontier, a flashpoint where even a single misstep could ignite a broader conflict. If war ever comes to Taiwan, the Philippines won't be a distant observer. It would be a frontline state, its islands hosting surveillance aircraft, missile batteries, and supply hubs. That prospect gives Manila both strategic weight and exposure. Every radar ping, every patrol flight, every exercise in Batanes could become a tripwire moment, yet the alliances keep deepening. The US is pre-positioning HIMARS and NEMESIS launchers. Australia is expanding its footprint in the north. Even Japan, bound by constitutional limits, is inching closer, exploring partnerships on early warning systems, maritime surveillance, and humanitarian response. Together, these moves form a web of cooperation, a loose but tightening coalition, determined to contain Beijing's naval reach. Opportunities abound: joint infrastructure, defense tech transfers, and a modernized regional defense network. But the price is clear. The Philippines is now in the center of a contest it cannot escape. In the end, the Mahatao base stands as more than concrete and steel. It's a declaration, a signal that Manila will no longer leave its northern frontier undefended. The question now is, what role the Philippines will play in the coming storm? Will Mahhatau be a shield that deters conflict, or a magnet that draws it closer? From forgotten islands to strategic choke point, Batanes has become the new front line, the place where geography, history, and destiny converge in the Indo-Pacific's unfolding story. Today, geography has thrust these islands into the global spotlight, perched just south of Taiwan and sitting at the throat of the Luzon Strait. Batanes isn't just a dot on the map anymore, it's the hinge point of Asia's future. If war ever breaks out in the Taiwan Strait, Batanes won't be watching from the sidelines. It will be part of the battlefield. That's the hard truth now facing the Philippines. Defending Batanes means preparing for a war everyone hopes never arrives. By transforming Mahhatau into a forward base, Manila is sending a message, one of resolve and realism. Neutrality is no longer an option in the Indo-Pacific's most volatile corridor. But this new stance carries weight. It invites sharper Chinese pressure, greater exposure to coercion, and the ever-present risk of a single miscalculation spiraling out of control. The challenge for the Philippines is as delicate as it is defining. Can it turn Batanes into both a shield of deterrence and a hub of humanitarian readiness, without letting it become the spark that sets the region ablaze? Because in truth, the Mahatau base is more than just steel and concrete. It's a symbol of the Philippines' strategic awakening, a declaration that the nation will no longer stand quietly on the margins of the South China Sea or the Taiwan flashpoint. Batanes now sits at the crossroads of global power, where freedom of navigation, sovereignty, and the future of the rules-based order collide. The stakes couldn't be higher, and that makes this tiny island chain one of the most important places on Earth. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's biggest geopolitical shifts.